Thanks again for joining us in the game interview series. Today we've got with us Tim Guter. Tim, why don't you take a few minutes and give us your background, just playing experience, coaching experience, what current roles you're in.
Let's see here. I grew up in the state of New Jersey, which some of the Southern guys will call a Yankee. Yes, I grew up as a Yankee. Grew up in the, I'm an old timer, so I grew up in the mid 80s in terms of high school playing. Actually early 80s, I shouldn't say mid 80s. Early 80s, played against some very good players up there, Harks, Ramos, Galnavaches out of Wall. So some decent pedigree of players I played against. Came to school down in North Carolina, went to a small D3 school in Greensboro called Greensboro College. They had just restarted the program, so I felt there was a good chance for me to come in right away, have a little bit of a stamp on the program. Played 4 years there, and then I started coaching when I stopped playing at Greensboro. Started coaching there under a guy by the name of Doug Hamilton, who went on to greater things in coaching at Greensboro College. He passed away a number of years ago, but I learned a ton of stuff from him in terms of preparation and so forth. Coached at Greensboro for 4 years, started the women's program there, and that was a brand new program, which, you know, at the school you're at, trying to get a program moving forward in the right direction sometimes is difficult. And then decided to go back and get my master's degree. And then in 1995, I got a job down here in New Bern, North Carolina, high school job, and been here ever since. Didn't think I was going to be here that long, but sort of grew on me, and I've had a fairly decent career coaching high school. Coached over 30 years in youth soccer. I'm presently on the NCYSA educational staff. And I've done ODP and been on I guess would be the Region 1 old school terminology for region staff, and then also the Region 3 region staff also.
Very nice, very nice. You know, little background for everybody. My high school teams played against Tim's high school teams, and they were typically not very easy opponents. But I think we had some pretty good games when you had, was it Trey Pascal playing for you?
Oh, absolutely. Great player on the left side.
Yep. Luckily, I played on the left side as well, so I didn't have to mark him. And also, I remember I was probably about 16 or 17 years old, and you had the opportunity to coach me for a couple weeks.
Yeah, the state games. I keep seeing some pictures of some of those players back on that team. We had some very good talent back in the day with Philip Long, who's up in Wilson. Your boy Calvin down in New Hanover, the great player. The East Coast has produced a ton of great players over the years. A lot of people don't know, but there's been a huge population of great players and obviously great coaches continuing in the game that's come from the East Coast of North Carolina.
Yeah, it's crazy how things have changed down there with the Hammerheads kind of continuing to grow and become an ECNL and kind of getting some more exposure for some of those kids. But obviously that's kind of more of just the Wilmington area. Obviously it goes all the way up the coast. So
absolutely, I got a daughter, not a daughter. I've got a player that plays for the Hammerheads in ECNL, goalkeeper, very good player. My daughter was happy or had the privilege of guest playing with the Hammerheads team down there too in a couple of tournaments. So some very good players.
Yeah, for sure. So you said obviously you're on staff with the coaching education in North Carolina. So you're helping kind of mold some of those younger coaches, even some of those more experienced coaches that want to kind of go back and do their coaching licenses. What do you feel like are the most important pieces for you whenever you're teaching one of those courses?
I think it's just giving the coaches, whether they're young or they're old, and that's in the class, in the course, something different to think about, to think outside the box. I think if you're going to be a successful coach, you have to think differently at different times in your career, and to give them the opportunity to hear a different voice or a different opinion on how to do certain things. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to that. You know, I still consider myself a young coach at just a little over 35. So I'm continuing to try to work on some of those things myself. So, what was your big reason into getting into coaching?
Something to do right after I got to stop playing, keeping the game.
Yeah.
And I think my passion for the game grew when I was younger. Did I ever expect to be a high school coach for 25 years? Probably not. I could see myself in the club game, which I still am in the club game. But the passion, and as you go through a coaching career, you know, I need to give back to the game more. That's why one of the reasons why I got into the educational aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to start this as well, is just to give another resource, you know, outside of the traditional kind of coaching education, just kind of get a chance to pick some other coaches' brains and just kind of get their ideas on some things, see if there's something that can help me, and obviously we want to put this out there and see if there's things that other coaches can help other coaches with. So, you know, what type of style of play do you guys typically try to play with your teams?
Well, I read that question when you sent it to me, and I'm sitting there going, how can I say this? I think as the game has evolved, players have to have the ability to play differently. Um, you know, if you're playing against a pressing team, you have to be able to manage the ball under pressure. And if you're playing against a non-pressing team, you have to play with time. And many times I think players try to play the same way, whether they're under pressure or when they're not under pressure. And I think a player has to understand when there's pressure on them and when there's not pressure on them. I think we play too fast sometimes, in terms of individually. And then sometimes in the same reverse, vice versa, we play too slow when we're under pressure. So I think I try to play, if I want to define it, it would be like a direct style of play. I like to get the ball forward, get it to the people up high, and look to play off of them. But those players up top have to be able to play under pressure. And then the midfielders have to be able to support as quickly as possible.
Very nice, very nice. What's one of your favorite activities to do with your teams?
Probably a shooting game, a close proximity shooting game, 40 yards and then 2 goals. Change the environment a little bit, play wide, play narrow, play with a touch restriction in the middle part maybe sometimes. But I think that's one thing, and we don't do enough of shooting activities with younger players. We do a lot of possession. We don't do a lot of shooting activities. So I think getting them involved into a shooting environment where there's a competition, you know, you get scored on, you step off, there's a 3-team type shooting activity, or you split a team into 2 teams, and when you get scored on, your half of the team has to step off, a new one steps on. So it gets competitive, and my players enjoy it, both male and females.
Yeah, I think that's something that I try to do with my teams, both on the youth level and the college level, quite a bit. Lots of quick transitional games with going to goal. Like to try to get the goalkeepers involved as quickly as we can in training. We don't like to have our keepers off for 45 minutes to an hour by themselves, just working on things. You know, obviously they get their work in small group stuff, but we want to try to get them involved in team training as quickly as we can.
Correct.
So, what's one of your favorite coaching memories other than getting to work with me?
No, I mean, you know, obviously working with the players that I've worked with over the years has been a great memory. I've coached in too many games I can think of. I've lost a lot of games, and my players have won a lot of games. Back when I was an assistant coach in 1989, we took a small school from the Greensboro College team and went to national finals. Ended up losing, but it was a great run. And just seeing those players on that team still have a bond of a brotherhood is something special. But in terms of overall, I just think it's the players that I've coached have whether I've given them passion or I've just sort of, got that fire underneath them that they're giving back to the game, whether they're coaching in club, like yourself at club and in college. Some of my ex-female players are coaching in middle schools now, which is a great, and they always tell me, Coach, I hated you as a coach when I played for you, but I completely understand now what you were trying to get out of me.
It's always different when you're the head person in charge.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I've told my high school coach on many an occasion that I'm very, very, I completely understand his frustrations with me now. What do you feel like is the most important piece of being a coach to you?
It's a great question. I think leadership is the biggest thing that a person that is in coaching, whether it's soccer or basketball or baseball, whatever, I think their leadership, how to deal with a group, how to deal with the individuals within the group, and build both of them, and how to manage the environment that you're in. In the USF new grassroots thing, it's controlling or managing the performance environment. You have to deal with a lot of different things, whether it's off the field, on the field. If you work in a school setting like yourself and myself, the academic aspect and how you manage that and how you lead those people and toward be a better player and be a better people. It's very important. Also, I think you have to be vulnerable as a coach too. You have to understand when you did something wrong, and you have to admit to yourself that I need to get better. One thing I tell people in the coaching courses that I deal with, I said, if you ever run a perfect training session, quit coaching. It's never going to happen again. And, as coaches, we have to be vulnerable and understand that some of the mistakes our players make are a direct result of us not doing what we're supposed to do.
I think that's definitely something that's not always easy to do, but I think self-reflection is a huge piece of growing as a coach, being able to look back at things and seeing what you could have done better, not just what your players could have done better, for sure.
Absolutely.
So obviously we've talked about you've been in Eastern North Carolina for a long time. How have you seen the game evolve over the years that you've been there?
I think the players themselves have gotten better in terms of technically and understanding. But on the reverse side of that, I've seen the competitive fight or spirit sort of diminish. It's odd. You see in the time that we're in now, you see a lot of people posting stuff online, what their kids want to do and the technical aspect and doing things better technically and reading the game and so forth. It's great. But I think there's a fire that, because we're not together now and get that competitive cauldron going on, I think kids play too much sometimes, and they're demanded of it too much, and they lose that fire within them. That's one thing that I've noticed, I think, across the state pretty much, not necessarily in Eastern North Carolina, but I think the players themselves are getting better. And they understand that in order to become what they want to be, they have to work at it.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've seen that kind of goes along with that, I think that, we play too many games now, and so the games mean less,
Right.
Whereas obviously I don't think I'm too old, but I'm old considered to some people, but growing up, we played 2 games a day every day that we went to go play. So
10 and 2.
Yeah.
12 and 4.
10 and 2 or 12 and 4.
Absolutely.
That's old school North Carolina soccer for you. But you knew you had like 4 or 5 weekends where you were going to play those games, and you needed to get done what you needed to get done. Whereas now, I think I think the sports medicine side has kind of made some strides as far as, obviously, that probably wasn't the safest thing for us to be doing, playing back-to-back Saturday, Sundays, 12 and 4 both days. But I think that we can kind of find kind of a line between the two where we can try to get that competitive environment back a little bit.
I think if you track with the biomechanical and the fitness equipment we have now, that if we put it on you in terms of how far did you run in those 2 games on that Saturday, you know, the training on Monday or even on Sunday, if you were training on Sunday or playing on Sunday, you would be pulled out of, you know, half of those games because you worked too much on that Saturday. But I think, you know, we can buy into that, the scientific aspect of it, but it's also learning how to manage your ability to play 2 games in a short period of time.
Yeah. I mean, we even did some of the periodization stuff with my college team this year, and you know, we had them basically fill out a survey every day on their phones, and there was times where we held kids out of training before games because their numbers were so low that we felt like they needed an extra break, and you know, that's definitely something that would not have happened previously, and it definitely wouldn't have happened when I was in college.
No. But I think, you know, it goes back to standards of play. I mean, what is demanded of the players now and what was demanded of the players back then are just different standards. And then we have to understand that the standards that we have are probably going to lead to whether we're going to be successful or not be successful.
Yeah. And I think obviously there's with playing in college matches, with having games so close, I think it as a coach, you have to kind of change the way you approach things for certain matches. So I think that's something that coaches need to keep in mind as well.
Do more mental training as opposed to physical training on those days in between.
Yeah. I think my first year at Peace, we had 17 players, so we did a lot of mental training as opposed to physical training because we could not
redirecting of their mentalities or mental training.
Yeah, well, a little bit of both of that. So luckily we didn't have that issue last year, and we won't have that issue moving forward anymore. So well, Tim, you know, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. You know, it means a lot. Obviously, you're somebody that I've had the chance to work with and learn from, and hopefully I get to continue that.
Yeah, it's just, I just give you a pathway and, hey, Reed, why don't you take this pathway and you'll become a better coach. I never direct anybody. I just give them ideas. So it's great to talking to you, bud.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
All right, bud.